welcome back to Late Night Love. We explore the awkwardness of parenting friendships, the emotional walls of teens, and the stay-at-home mom or working parent. Plus, what happens when your child's passion doesn't match their talent. But before we get to all that, I was going across the interwebs last night, and I came across a thing that I want to show our audience here, just because it's got us. When we talk about love is more than. There's a reason we separate love and relationships, and this is actually a good explanation of why we separate love from relationships. Because love doesn't have to be with somebody you even know. You can express love to people without knowing who they are. So let's see.
And standing on the sidewalk, must have been in his 80s, waving at me like this. I didn't take my mom's advice. I approached the stranger. I said, "Sir, is everything okay?" And he looked at me and he said, 17 Crescent, 17 Crescent. I'm like, "Are you trying to get somewhere?" 17 Crescent. Found out very quickly, he did not speak English. He was from Poland and he had a backpack full of sausages. And so I started asking him ID, address, and he just kept saying 17 Crescent. After 4 minutes, the guy pulls out a piece of paper from his back pocket with his sister's address written on it. I was like, "Why didn't you pull this out 4 minutes ago?" So I take the address, I punch it in my phone, 35-minute walk. It's a 3-minute drive. I purchased the Uber, $7. He had no idea what was happening. The car rolls up, still had no idea. I was like, 17 Crescent. He then walks into the car, starts getting emotional, rolls down the window, and he's like waving at me like he's my grandfather. Drives off. I have a hypothesis as to why doing good is sometimes challenging. I believe it's because it's one of the most meaningful experiences we feel in our hearts when we serve somebody else.
There's truth to that. It's difficult for people to step outside their comfort zone and help someone they know or don't know, because you never know where that's going to lead.
Well, and there's a myriad of things that could happen. You never know.
Yeah.
It's the great unknown when you say, "Can I help you?" You're really stepping into it.
Yeah. You're essentially letting nature take the wheel, God take the wheel, depending upon your perspective of this. You are setting yourself up for the unknown, and that's difficult, but it can be rewarding in small ways.
It really can.
I mean, you get a nice wave from an elderly man as he gets to go see his sister for the first time in who knows how long. Instead of a 35-minute walk, it's a 3-minute drive. He gets to arrive safe. You've done a little good in the world and spent $7-10, in 5 minutes. It's a small price to pay for that warm, gooey feeling you have in your heart, right?
Yes.
Especially if you have it. So, I don't know. If you have room, step out as often as you can. Don't be unsafe, right? He's a young man dealing with an old man. He was perfectly safe. You don't necessarily have to step out of your safety zone to step out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
So we'll leave that at that. All right. But parenting isn't just about raising kids. It's about surviving the social minefield that comes with it, from introverted children to attention-seeking meltdowns. Let's talk love, family style. Good God almighty.
This is wonderful.
It's wonderful for you. All right. Where are we starting?
How do you tell another parent you have no interest in being friends?
Do you
have to?
This is the thing. You're an adult. You just don't, when they offer you to go to lunch or dinner or coffee, you just do this thing called say no. And over time, they understand that there's not a relationship there. That's how these things work. You don't have to be rude or about it.
They'll get it.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
And, if you have to put up with them at your son's baseball games or something, well, guess what? You just have to put up with them at your son's baseball games or something. Life's like that sometimes, and you just have to deal with it. Sorry, there's no golden answer to that one.
It doesn't mean you have to be rude. You're still hi. How you doing?
Yeah,
You know.
there's no needs. There is no cause for rudeness, right? That's
Yeah.
but there is cause for kindness. You don't have to hang out with them, but you don't have to be rude or unkind. So there's no need to tell them you don't want to be friends. You just don't be friends.
Just don't be friends.
Yeah, happens every day. Okay.
Parents of quiet, sensitive, or introverted kids, how did they turn out?
Like any other kids. They're, they roll the same dice of turnouts as everybody else. Just because they're shy or introverted or sensitive doesn't mean that the whole world of life experiences are still open to them. That lots of times they are very good at being in public, functioning, right? They spent a lifetime of pretending to be a functional, so when they get to adults, they're actually pretty good at it by now.
Yeah.
They're pretty good at pretending they want to be there. That's actually a very good skill. They're actually, in many ways, they're ahead of the game because they have a lifetime of practice, right? Of dealing with networking events and all these kind of things that they really don't want to be to, that other people don't have the practice of. So in a sense, they've got different set of skills. You just start life with a different set of skills. That's all it is. And we've seen major comedians talk about how they're shy. We've seen people who can't sing in front of a crowd but can sing in front of a stadium full of people. They can't sing in front of their family, but you put them in front of a stage with lights and a crowd screaming, and they're perfectly fine. Of course, they puked before they went out there, which is the part you don't know.
You don't know that.
But they do. They manage it because that's also who they are. So quiet, sensitive, or introverted kids, they are essentially the same as anybody else. They can all turn out fine, or they can all have a rough adulthood. Just because you're extroverted and doesn't make you, automatically more successful.
It doesn't.
And you're going to have to define what success is before you can, how they turn out. In that case, I'd worry more about the sensitive kid than the quiet or introverted ones. Because they're the ones who are the emotional roller coaster. Like quiet and introverted kids, they're not on an emotional roller coaster, right? They're doing their own things. They're used to doing their own things, and the world can go to heck, right? That's their attitude.
Pretty much.
And so they're perfectly fine. It's the sensitive ones, the ones who live life on an emotional roller coaster. Let's separate those from the other two. Now, they can still have the gamut of life experiences, but they're on, the potential dangers of going too far up or down, the proverbial roller coaster, the ups and downs of that emotional, that can wear on you over time.
It's exhausting.
So that's the one I'd be worried about, but not introverted or quiet kids. So they're perfectly, they want to be by themselves. They're fine. At worst, they'll find some job where they can be themselves and live by themselves, and they'll go be a hermit or something. That's not they're all right. Sensitive ones.
You got to watch. Keep an eye on them.
Yeah, you got to watch out for their emotional management.
Yeah.
Okay.
My teen shuts down when I try to talk about emotions. He's 15.
Gee, imagine that. A 15-year-old boy that doesn't want to talk about emotions. And here's why. He doesn't understand them. He's 15. Right? It's a wave of emotions that he don't understand. Many of them are embarrassing, partly because you don't understand them. And so, of course, he's going to shut down. It doesn't mean he's not listening. Stop expecting a response. Shorten your lectures to 2 minutes, maybe 3 if you have to. Get them in, get them done. Don't expect much of a response. Let him sit on it. When you respect his need to process these things, he will eventually start responding to you. I mean, unless he's dealing with an emotional problem, but it didn't really sound like an emotional problem, right?
Didn't sound like it. No.
No, because my teen shuts down when I talk about emotions. It's not saying my teen.
He doesn't ever talk ever. No, just when he starts, want to talk about his feelings.
Yeah, well, he doesn't understand them. He can't explain them. You're asking him to put words to things he can't put words to.
Exactly.
So stop expecting him to.
Yeah, please.
Keep your conversations, one-sided and short. Help him with the words he's going to need, right? Give him the words he's going to need. So later on, when he's ready to talk to you, he has the words he needs. You've been through teenage. We've all been through it. We all know the emotions he's dealing with. And as long as he's not, experiencing emotional difficulties one way or the other, right? As long as this is just kind of normal teenage stuff, you have time to work through this. There's not an emergency to deal with, right?
No, there wasn't any signs.
There's just
that
perfectly normal 15-year-old behavior, and you are trying to help them through this emotional period. What you need to do is help him by giving him the words he's going to need to explain these emotions. And it might be easier if he has, someone else to talk to, maybe someone, not you, not his father, bad Uncle Bob. Sometimes they have a perspective that others don't, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Uncles.
Uncles, friends, whatever. There's usually someone.
I had older cousins.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a friend's older brother, right, that helps them understand the emotions. Or, that's how it normally works. Generally speaking, from a men's perspective, they don't learn it from their friends. They learn it from their friends' older brothers or sisters, and kind of through osmosis. They hear them, they watch them, and that's how they learn. It's better that they learn that from you, because then they get the proper perspective. So keep your discussions short. Don't expect, especially in the beginning, don't expect a bunch of, don't expect a conversation, right? Just say, I want you to know that I know as a 15-year-old, you're experiencing all these emotions. Here's some words to help you explain them, right? And you give them some words, and sometimes it's difficult to tell the two apart. It's difficult to tell the difference between frustration and anger, right? Especially as a teenage boy. It's very difficult. There's a fine line. And how do you know the difference? Don't know. But, you can figure it out. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to your emotions. Try to figure it out. Are you angry or are you frustrated? Think about it when you've calmed down. Because it's hard when teenage boys are in the heat of emotions to sit there. So you practice doing that afterward. And then when they're a little older, you now have the practice of doing that, and they can apply it during the heat of emotions. That's how you get emotionally stable young men. Now, if I'd have known this when my boys were teenagers, it would have been a lot more helpful for them. But, live and learn. I am pushing my wisdom out into the world, and hopefully people can learn from my mistakes. So, there we go.
I know. Well, the world is listening.
Well, I was actually pretty good. By the time my boys got to be teenagers, I was not terrible at that, but I would have preferred.
I think you did wonderful.
I did okay, but I would have preferred a slightly different approach to teaching them how to manage their emotions. I mean, I'm not going to say there's no regrets or anything. Did the best I could with the knowledge I had, but knowing that what I know now, I would have made slightly different choices, not hugely different choices. I would have made some slightly different choices. Still would have thrown pennies, but that's a whole different question.
Man.
All right, what's next?
Do any of your kids actually like going to school?
Some kids like going to school, and then some kids don't. And you can put that about. Well, I don't know if I want to put a percentage on it, but it's the girls and the boys are generally flopped, right? Girls don't dislike school more than girls like school more, generically speaking.
Social.
Yeah. Well, for one, it's not designed for boys. You're asking these active boys to sit in a classroom for 6-8 hours a day, and it's just not how boys operate. You're essentially asking them to counter their nature. If you're going to do that, they need more recess. Keep them in school longer, but give them more recess, right? There's options there. Boys need to burn that energy. They need more practical learning, especially when they're young, so they don't suck the life out of them wanting to go to school. That's the real problem, is they take these young boys, 6, 7, 10, and they put them in a classroom all day when that's the age where boys need active learning. And so by the time they're 11, 12, 13, they're sick of school. It's been counter to their nature this whole time, and so they're tired of it. And they build bad habits, and it's going to be difficult for them to get back on track. So I don't know. I don't necessarily would want to create 2 tracks for women, for boys and girls, because there's girls who could benefit from an active learning, and there's boys who could benefit from this, what we'll call it, social learning styles of young ladies, right? And so you don't want to make it exclusive, but can we do a better job of getting our kids into the proper educational environment for that child? This is not the 1950s. We know better now, but somehow we still want to take all these wide variety of Skittles and make them out, and they all want to come out as, I don't know, a brown Skittle or something.
That's what they did. I know.
It's just so irritating, because education is the most important thing, but they're not getting educated in our schools. And it's driving me crazy. And the ones who are getting educated in our schools would get educated in almost any circumstance.
Say again?
The people who are getting educated in our schools, the ones now who are they would get educated in any place.
Oh.
Right? It wouldn't. Those students, the really good students, doesn't matter what your education system is, they're going to thrive in it.
Okay.
It's the rest of us, the rest of everybody else, that pays the price.
Yeah.
Like what is it? They just did the reading and math levels for graduating students was like the lowest they've ever recorded.
No.
Well, why would it surprise anybody? 5 years ago, they disrupted their entire lives. Schools were crap anyway. And then when they came back, they've got this disjointed learning education system since then. It's not even a unified system anymore. It's all, which is fine if you deliberately want it that way, but it's designed as a unified system, but everybody's got their own. It's the worst of all possible worlds. Is what we've created post-COVID. We've literally done the worst of all possible worlds. So, and now it's those kids now are the ones, the graduates, because the ones before were already in high school. They had already gotten their basic education, right? So now it's the ones who are in middle school and earlier who are starting to graduate. And those are those kids, right, where the education system essentially exposed itself to not care about kids. Right? That's essentially what happened during COVID, which many of us knew about, right? The education cared about the education system. That's, that's what, when something becomes a certain size, it cares about protecting itself. It's what it does. You almost can't blame it. Anyway, we went on a tangent.
Just a little.
Just a little bit of a tangent. My apologies. Yes, some kids like going to school. Almost every kid likes being educated.
Yes.
So if your child is not liking school, don't get your heart so down, right? Keep your chin up, because it doesn't mean your child doesn't want to be educated. So you can take charge of their education. Find them a different school, homeschool, supplement, so they at least have fun learning at home. Keep that desire for an education alive. That's what you need to preserve. Not the desire for school, desire for education.
Yes. I agree.
Okay.
What do you do when your child is enthusiastic about a hobby, but less than talented?
You let them pursue it. God.
Pursue
it.
There we go. Good job.
Let them do it. And the reason is because you never know. Just because they love the hobby, maybe they end up becoming a coach.
Yeah.
Who knows? Those who can't do teach, right? It's those kind of things. Let them experience their love. Maybe they become a writer and cover it as a sports podcaster, sports broadcaster, whatever it is. Let them never squash their love. You do want to have realistic goals for them. If they're not a very talented person, you don't want to go put them on a traveling team.
Yes.
But you encourage their desire to participate in something they care about. They don't have to be good. Maybe they don't care that they don't get to play all the time. Maybe they just like being on the team. They like going to practice. They like hanging out with the guys. And on occasion, he gets to play.
Yeah. And that's a lot of kids.
A lot of kids are like that.
Yeah.
And, a lot of kids have gotten a lot of benefit from that, from networking to learning how to, practice.
Learning how to be on a team.
Teamwork. Every teamwork has a role. Sometimes you need people to practice against, right? The main guys need someone to play against. So that's what the bench players do. Their role is to help the other players become better. And hopefully in the process you become better, right? But that's your job. That's why they have practice players in the NFL, right? And then in NBA, not just to cover for injuries, but because they serve an important role. So let them encourage them is my.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Please do. Don't squash anything that love us something.
No, but you can keep it realistic.
No.
You don't have to lie to them either.
Yeah.
Yeah. But encourage them to participate. Okay.
Obnoxious attention seeking when guests come over. Will it ever end?
Who, your guests?
No, the child.
Oh, when they get older.
They will.
Yeah, when it's teenagers, they'll want to leave their room. So just wait. That's just what they do at that age. What, toddlers? 3 to 5?
6.
So yeah, perfectly normal behavior for that age.
Yeah.
They're learning. They're trying to become, they are practicing being an adult. They are trying to mimic the behavior of people they see around them. And of course, they're 5, 6. They're doing it poorly. Of course they are. But they're learning, right? This is how they learn. And when people, don't give them the attention they are seeking for that behavior, they will change their behavior to different, right? They'll try out different behaviors. So just let nature take its course. Yeah, you can still tell them to behave themselves, quiet down, and all that good stuff. But, you don't want them to become unruly. Rules still apply, but attention seeking, let them do cartwheels. Who cares?
I did.
Yeah. All right. Last one, love.
That was the last one.
No, you missed one.
Oh, I missed one. Okay. Stay-at-home mom or work?
Well, we're assuming that finances isn't a huge issue.
No, it's not really.
Then
I mean, things are tight, but they're making it.
okay. So here's the question. Can you make enough money working to pay for the costs?
3-month-old and a 6-year-old.
You can't make enough money to pay for the costs of your daycare.
Not with a baby.
Not with the infant.
Sorry. No.
I mean, depending upon her, maybe she could, right? Maybe she's a high-level accountant or something, right? And she actually,
CPA.
and she could,
or whatever.
and she could flip in and start making enough money to pay for it. But is it worth it at that stage?
I mean, I didn't want to miss my children's baby.
Well, see, I would never tell someone who has a career ambitions to not go back to work.
No, I
would
either.
never say that.
No.
But if you're vacillating because, it's best for somebody, doesn't matter who, be it dad, mom, grandma, whatever, somebody is home in the family to take care of that child, right? That is ultimately the best. Mom, dad, grandparent, historically, those are the best way to raise a child long term, right?
Yeah.
The most stable way to do it. Doesn't mean that you can't do it other ways and be just as successful, if not more. It just means that, you pencil out percentages. Having a family member take care of that child long term is the best for their long term health, for their long term outcome.
Yeah. It is.
But, ends have to meet, right? And long-term ends have to meet as well. And so she could be sitting out of a potential long-term career that could be much more beneficial to her family long-term. And so these are factors in the theoretical equation that we don't know. And it's all those various factors that you have to sit down and you have to contemplate. And then ultimately it's going to be an emotional decision. Do you want to stay and raise your children or do you want the career? And there's not a right or wrong answer.
No, there's not.
And there's not a right or wrong answer. We are going to be 100% clear. There's the answer for you and your family because we don't know. Maybe in a couple of years, you're making enough money because you went back to work. Your husband can stay home and raise the kids and go through homeschooling and do all and do the stay-at-home dad things. So we should just call them stay-at-home parents rather than stay-at-home moms and stay-at-home dads. They should just be stay-at-home parent because it doesn't matter. It's not really relevant if it's the mom or the dad who stays home, but that is, statistically speaking, the best chance for the child, for the family. But people land outside this, weird things happen. So I would never tell anybody to not chase your dream if your dream is, your career. So did we just vacillate out of not giving an answer? Yes, we did. Because there's no simple answer. And I think
None.
And I think that's part of the problem with these things is we try to pretend there's a simple answer that one way is best or the other way is best. And the reality is the way that works for you and your family is the way that works for you and your family. And you can't say one is better than the other because you're never going to know what would have happened had you gone the other way. It's impossible to know. So you make the best choices you can and you live with them. Like humans have done since the beginning of time. So whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a working parent, or just trying to survive a dinner party with your kids' antics, you deserve a break. Have a good night, and please remember to love everybody.
Good.